Good day, everyone. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, the World Against Racism Network, ISMUN, and the other NGOs who have organized this event for inviting me to speak today. My name is Manbo Dòwòti Désir. I am the founder of the AfroAtlantic Theologies and Treaties Institute, and I serve as the chair of the Committee for the Elimination of Racism, the NGO Committee for the Elimination of Racism, Afrophobia, and Colorism, formerly known as the Subcommittee for the Elimination of Racism of the NGO Committee for Human Rights. Since 2001, I have been invested in the DDPA process, even risking my career when leading a national institution that was too afraid to uphold its principles, all the while living in a country, the United States of America, that continues to boycott and ignore the legal and moral relevancy of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action Plan, doing this well into the 21st century. I live in a USA who elected its first president of African descent, Barack Hussein Obama, 8 years ago, almost half of the duration of the DDPA. Yet, during that time, in the U.S., racism has only increased exponentially, and manifestations of its presence in the military-industrial complex increased to a point where we are incarcerating over 2 million people, a disproportionate percentage of whom are people of African descent. I live in a USA where every 24 hours, with or without media presence, an unarmed African descendant is mortally wounded by police officers. I live in a hemisphere where the practitioners of African-based religions such as Voodoo, Candomblé, Lukumi, Winti, Obia are stigmatized, criminalized, and otherwise marginalized, keeping many of us invisible, denied basic human services, and sapped of our economic dignity. I live in a community where members of the Global South are engaged in one of the largest mass migrations since the Second World War, because after decades of ravaging our natural resources, disrupting our economies, incapacitating our human development, and forcing climate change in our lands, thousands flee to the global north, often the historic source of our plight, risking life and limb for a just existence. I live in a world where 15 years after the World Conference Against Racism, civil society continues to face challenges, trying to get our respective governments to mobilize support, create an infrastructure, and provide other mechanisms for implementing the General Assembly's resolution for the Program of Activities for the International Decade of People of African Descent, 2015 to 2024, a resolution all member states have unanimously ratified. While the legal framework of the International Decade is informed by the Durban Declaration, many of the G7 countries, including, of course, the United States, even though they don't uphold the Durban Declaration, they do recognize that there is a need, however reluctantly, there is a need to revise our social contract. I say all this because I cannot live in a world where the Human Rights Council refuses to protect my human rights by not passing an annual resolution on the DDPA, a resolution that directly impacts my life and those persons I represent, millions of people of African descent who are unable to have their voices heard in a forum such as this. I ask the HRC, do not silence the DDPA. Do not silence the victims of racism, of Afrophobia, colorism, of Islamophobia, xenophobia, and the litany of social ills that continues to plague us. I thank you.